Business environment, you know, there's a prior 2010 Soccer World Cup and there's probably an after 2010 Soccer World Cup. And the reason I say that is the last couple of years building up to the World Cup, there was a lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of natural funding of the economy, if you want. But after 2010, it's come back to normal. So a lot of excitement, but a lot of potential, a lot of possibilities. It's still a growing country. Couple of things in South Africa. South Africa, I'm not saying it's unique, but it's fairly unique. Two different paradigms that have got to change in South Africa. First paradigm, the leaders have got to learn to let go. You know, because of tribalism, because of colonialism, you'll find that the leaders in South Africa inevitably wanted to be in control of everything. Didn't want to let go, didn't want to give other people the opportunity to think and to reason. So it was really one-brained, linear thinking. I'm the boss, you tell me what, I'll tell you what to do. And so the paradigm from a leadership perspective, from the leaders, the senior guys, has got to be, they would allow people the opportunity to grow. Where, once again, because of tribalism and colonialism, the followers were conditioned not to think. In a global environment in which we live, we've got to think, we've got to reason, we've got to be whole people, we've got to think out the box, come up with new ideas. And because they've been conditioned not to think, even though they hear it, they don't know actually how to do it. So that's the paradigm from the more junior level of an individual within South Africa. All right, well, you cannot manage anything effectively if you can't measure it, obviously. And so profiles have got instruments that can measure people in order to be able to make decisions whereby you can manage. If I can't measure my health, if I don't know where I am from a health perspective, how can I control it? How can I manage it? It's exactly the same with people. Now, too many times what happens is we look at it, we observe, we make decisions, but inevitably we don't do it with any kind of science. We do it thumbsuck and we make wrong decisions with regard to people. And so critical, you've got to measure in order to be able to manage, whether it be from a hiring perspective, from a development perspective, from a coaching perspective. It's just a given. Nelson Mandela must be probably, not from a business perspective, but from a leadership perspective, was or is a benchmark that people tend to follow. Right, Nelson Mandela, and if you look at him, he did it by influencing people. He could have, when he came out of prison, he could have said, listen, I've been in prison unjustly for such a long time, I'm going to come back and I'm going to get revenge. But it's almost a noble intent thing, whereby very genuine, very sincere, I know that it's important to be able to speak to people and to reason with them, to treat them like people and be of influence. So if you can't influence, inevitably it's not going to happen. And Nelson Mandela is a perfect example of that. If you look at what he did was, while he was in prison, what his experience inevitably was to develop the people around him. So much so that if you go to Robben Island, there's a cave where they used to take material, written material from an education perspective, and they would teach each other in the cave. And the reason why they did it in the cave was the wardens wouldn't come into this cave. So it was where they were digging sand and hitting stones and breaking stones up, and amongst this labor intensive day, every now and again they would have lunch and they'd go into the shaded area in the cave and they would teach each other. And his big thing was education. If you don't educate the people, if you don't uplift the people, if you don't grow the people, how on earth can you have an influence on them? Nothing changes. And so the difference between countries that, and anyone that is successful or not, is it's got to be an ever ongoing improvement, development process for people. All right, if you look at change, and this is not new, change has got four ingredients. The first ingredient of change is you've got to come to a knowledge that you need to change. And so first ingredient, if I don't know that I need to change, will I ever? Second ingredient, I've got to have the skills to change. Third and most important one is you've got to have the desire to change. You must want to. You know, I can come to a knowledge that I need to change. I can have the skills to change. But if I don't want to change, I'm not going to change. And the fourth one is we're all creatures of habit, and therefore we need to replace old habits with new ones. And so it's putting the new things into practice every single day. So leadership, 1, where am I right now? 2, what I need to change. 3, I've got to cultivate that desire from within. And 4, now I've just got to make it habit.